It's been a little while since we've done this. No drop frames now. You gotta love updates. You have to love updates. Pretty good bit rate. Funny, you have one thing downloading and then you wind up having an unbelievable amount of stuff that winds up. I'm trying to see my big fat head here. Oh, my big fat head. All right, 10 seconds left. For those of you that have nothing better to do at all. One. All right, well, sir, blah, 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 blah. All right, so we're back. It's been a little while since I've been here. A lot of life got in the way. I was doing some training with jiu-jitsu, as I usually do, but I kind of ramped it up because I wanted to get a few concepts at my dojo. So I've sort of really been kind of going crazy with that. And I have also been Krav Maga's back on. I mean, it was always on, but I ended up taking kind of a month break because I had a shit ton of work to do and had to get the show finished and add some new stations and all that kind of jazz. So it's just basically between Christmas and New Year's, it was an absolutely nutty, 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 nutty period and had a bunch of projects that had to be finished, as evidenced by the fact that I'm stuttering a little bit in a way that I normally don't. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks, but back to it. Didn't want you guys to think that I'd gone anywhere. God, every single time I try to adjust this mic, I had it. You ever have one of those days where you have the mic perfectly set up the way you want, and then you end up having to kind of test something and it doesn't quite work the way you want it to? Like this sounds a little better. Yeah, my mouth is so dry. But anyway, yeah. So here, and hopefully those of you that have been wondering where the hell I was, well, I'm still here. I see that there's another 20 or 30 new subscribers, so thank you for that. So there's a couple of interesting things going on in my neck of the woods. So obviously, Go Nitro has been renewed for season 3, so I'm very excited about that. So we just started with season 3, so we actually filmed the first episode of season 3 on Friday, or sorry, I'm getting my days mixed up. It was either Thursday or Friday that we ended up filming our first episode, which was synchronized swimming. And some of you might be wondering, well, synchronized swimming, yeah, well, synchronized swimming is, as I learned from basically treading water in for 45 minutes, and I'm pretty fit. I'm used to treading water for an extended period of time, particularly with camera equipment. It is not an easy thing to do. They make it look easy, but I got to tell you, it's pretty hard. So that's actually going to be a really interesting episode. So what I'm going to do is, for those of you that want to pop over to gonitro.tv, I'm actually going to post some stuff on our social media, some screenshots of some of the really interesting stuff that we've done. So that'll wind up being edited in a couple of weeks, and that will wind up running on Fox. That'll wind up running most likely on Fox first, and then it'll wind up on Max TV for SaskTale after, right? Because the show is made for the U.S. market, and then it winds up airing here a little bit after. But there won't be too long of a wait, and we actually filmed that with the Regina Synchro Club. So we were very grateful to the Regina Synchro Club for having us, and it was a very, very cool episode. And then tomorrow we're filming some more sword fighting type stuff, and then season 3 is actually going to be martial arts heavy. So we're going to have jiu-jitsu, which we're actually going to film at my dojo with my sensei and some of my sparring partners and people that I train with. And we are going to be doing, we're still working on some details, but the plan is we're going to be doing ninjutsu as well. So that's pretty cool. And we are going to be doing and we're also going to be doing, what else are we doing? This was all so much more. It's just been, I ended up just getting home really late last night. But yeah, so it's a pretty martial arts heavy season, and we'll be doing Muay Thai and a bunch of other stuff as well, and we'll be doing ringette. There's a lot of on some of the stations in some of the states that we run the show in. They don't actually know what ringette is. It's actually not done there, so that should be very interesting for them, and a bunch of them are looking forward to it. And so yeah, so season 3 kind of is going to be the martial arts season. Some of the other stuff is probably going to have to wait until season 4. They're starting to get a handle on the COVID restrictions for the stuff that we're doing. So obviously we're going to be going down and shooting a couple of episodes. The plan with the Chicago White Sox, but that's going to have to be pushed a little bit until the COVID stuff kind of gets more under control. But that's going to be a really exciting episode. And then we have some other really exciting episodes as well, and some other really interesting announcements, which I'm really looking forward to. The other thing on the Skycron side of things, we're actually going to start broadcasting boxing live boxing bouts, and I'm not going to say too much yet, but we should be make an announcement about that in the coming weeks. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And I've been dealing with an awful lot of idiots lately. I'm sure some of you, well, it's made international news. My hometown, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, born and raised. It's been shut down, and basically what's going on is the so-called Freedom Convoy is pretty much shut down all of Ottawa, pretty much. So it's a complete mess. So you've got all this honking and gridlock, and well, I'm glad I'm in Saskatchewan, let's put it that way. But this whole thing is just a complete mess. In Saskatchewan, some of the restrictions are going to be going down. So apparently the masks will no longer be required. I'm not going to editorialize one way or another on that, but at least here the cases are going down, so they're removing mask restrictions. So that's something. I know that in Ontario, apparently some of the restrictions are going down, and across the United States, it really varies from state to state. So the whole thing, but the whole convoy thing, this whole freedom convoy or whatever that's going on in Ottawa, where all the truckers and that are basically have effectively shut the city down, now has made international news. So I've got friends of mine from all over the place asking me about it. My assessment is this: um, you know, getting attention, that's good. But if you do wind up getting a seat at the table to talk, you better make damn sure that you've got your story straight. Um, that's all I can say about it. I don't think anybody really knows exactly what to make of COVID entirely. The vaccines do work. That's my and science-based backed assessment, right? It much like a flu vaccine, it doesn't eradicate the illness, but what it does is it acclimatizes your body so that you can fight it, right? There's no cure for the flu, and the flu's been around a long time. But, you get your flu shot every fall or whatever, and then you sort of deal with it. And that sort of looks like, I mean, again, I'm not a virologist, so unlike a lot of these morons on Twitter, and it just seems to be that they're predominantly on social media, I'm not a virologist. I don't have the authority, educational background, or expertise to state categorically one way or another. So when it comes to what works and what doesn't, I'm going to go by peer-reviewed medical research journals, and I'm going to be listening to a virologist. I'm not going to be listening to anybody else, right? You listen to the people that have a background in the field that is most directly related to the information that you need in the issue in question. And in this case, it would be, people and physicians that have a background in virology, so virologists, etc. And for some reason, you got a bunch of these uneducated boneheads online, and they just spew all this nonsense, and half of them, it seems like they haven't even managed to graduate from high school, if at all. Yet somehow these idiots apparently know more than these doctors. Yeah, and that to me is sort of the world we're living in. I think it's particularly bad in Canada. I find Canada in a lot of ways a particularly frustrating country to live in. I mean, we have a bit of a passive aggressive shunning, bullying problem going on here, you know, and this goes on in all walks of life, but it's really bad here. Uh, you know, just look at Team Canada and the way that some of our athletes are being treated. And one of them ended up going to the bobsled team in the USA because she was pretty much screwed over. And I wish I could say I was surprised by this, but I've seen this happen time and time again, where you get one bully that's in a well-placed area, and then suddenly they can do no wrong, and it doesn't matter how much evidence you have, how much tape you have, how much whatever. It's like one big clique. And I mean, I've experienced this in the media here, even at my own network where I worked for 15 years. I mean, we're doing okay now, but there's a reason that I'm no longer with the network that I used to work at. And frankly, I find that there's a considerable lack of professionalism in Canadian media, particularly in television. And, I used to work at CTV. I no longer put that on my resume. I mean, the network has turned into a complete joke, and I'm not thrilled with the professionalism or lack thereof that seems to be just running rampant there, and the way that people are treated. That isn't to say that there aren't still good people working there. I mean, I still have friends that work there and are excellent, but by and large, the people that know what they're doing and want to create good television and produce good news are not valued there. I know this. I've hired some of my former colleagues, for contracts at Skycron for stuff, and I've seen this happen many, many times, including Olympic gold medalists. So, you know, it's unbelievable, and there doesn't seem to be an understanding as to how unprofessional this country has become, particularly in broadcasting. I was watching the Olympics the other night. It was ice skating, and the announcer actually made a crack and insulted the audience, saying, "Oh, well, basically, for those of you that only check in every 4 years or whatever, here's how it goes." And he was basically calling the audience a bunch of idiots. You can't do that. No, nobody seemed to think that that was anywhere. That was nobody seemed to think that that was unprofessional. It is unprofessional, and it seems like in Canada we have an attitude problem, and it does seem to me that we are having an issue with sportsmanship. I'm seeing cases of again, this isn't a take away from any of my colleagues and friends, on Team Canada and a bunch of other athletes that are high up, but I am seeing what I consider to be a disturbing lack of sportsmanship, which is starting to become more and more and more accepted here. And anybody that dares bring it up is shunned or ostracized, or they try to discredit, or they do this kind of this gaslighting thing where they just basically focus on every aspect of the statement deliberately, except the one that the complaint is targeting, to try to, like, it just seems like in Canada we are more interested in gaslighting and discrediting anybody that just doesn't agree with the status quo, and basically just leave them for dead. And I find that to be a bunch of horse shit. So I'm just kind of putting myself out there, and I think it's a pile of crap. And I find it really unfortunate that this is the way that things are going here. And this is why we don't have excellence stay here, because as a country, in our behavior, in our bullying, and our high school cafeteria bullshit, is basically saying, if you are good at what you do, if you value doing an excellent job, and you want to push the needle, and you want to, push the needle, and you know, be the best that you can be, and do the best job that you can, you're a threat, you're not valued, get the fuck out. And that is most definitely what I have seen in my experience in the last few years in Canadian media. With some exceptions, we've had some very good partners in the media. So I'm not painting every single entity with the same brush. But what I am saying is that it is more of a rarity to have professionalism in Canadian broadcasting than there is. It's a rarity to have professionalism in Canadian broadcasting now than unprofessionalism. And anybody that dares address the issue is basically lambasted and bullied. And I'm sorry, but Canadian broadcasting has generally had excellent technical standards and has been well regarded for many years for having excellent standards. But in the last 10 years, I'm sorry, but our networks have basically turned into a personal blogs. I see stuff. When I worked at CTV, pre-Bell Media, I see stuff on a daily basis during the news that we would never have accepted. Never. I've seen people lose their jobs for far less. Anybody that speaks up and wants to do a better job, though, boy, they'll get them out of there right now, right, really fucking fast. But I see stuff on the news. Like, I'll watch the national news at night, and I'll see missed cues on a regular basis. I'll see just cutting to black. I'll see the wrong lower thirds. I'll see the floor director, cue the cue director have the switcher cue the wrong, file footage. Like, it's a mess. And a lot of these things are not being, I don't know. It's gotten to the point where it's so bad that I almost don't even want to talk about it, because you try to bring it up and all you get is a finger point. Well, you're this and you're that and you're wrong. And it's no, I'm not fucking wrong. There's a reason why my show is running, in a real country with a real, audience, and I'm respected there because we have a certain broadcast standard that we follow. And this is a broadcast standard that I learned here. There's a lot of things that I would love to say to people. Now, this is a live stream. This is my personal opinion. Yes, it is on the Skycron live stream. And, some people will say it's unprofessional. But you know what? I don't give a fuck. I really don't. My station, my channel, my whatever. There's a difference between what I'm saying here in a live stream, and I stand by what I say, right? I'm not going to turn around if some asshole decides to pull up a clip from one of my podcasts or whatever and say, oh, you said this, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, that's what I said. Oh, well, you're this, and so what you're saying is, fuck off. Yeah, I stand by what I say. I'm not impressed with the way things are operating in this country right now. I think that the way that people are behaving in Canadian broadcasting is unacceptable. I think that the level of professionalism in Canadian media has become unacceptable. I think that we have a lot of children and mealy-mouthed little twits that are now operating the Canadian networks here. And I think that they will do anything to get rid of anybody that dares not agree with them. You can't have an intelligent conversation with anybody anymore. You can't have an intelligent exchange of ideas. You can't have a healthy debate. It's either this is the groupthink that we've decided that we're going to go with, or we are going to destroy you or attempt to destroy you. And if that doesn't work, which in my case, of course, it hasn't, and in a lot of cases it hasn't, they don't know what to do. They go nuts. Well, what do you mean we can't keep them out? What do you mean? This doesn't make sense. It's like, here's an idea. Why don't you stop being an asshole and just start acting like an adult? There's a thought. Not everybody's going to fucking agree with you. You can't bully everybody into submission. And if you do that, eventually somebody's going to go, you know what, screw this, let's go someplace else. And that's exactly what I did. And this is a problem. This is a real problem. This whole Bell Let's Talk, they don't give a flying fuck about the mental health of their employees. They don't. There's all these stories. I mean, look at the mass firing at TSN. We had a deal with TSN for Go Nitro, and they kept screwing around with the terms of the deal and dicking us around and whatever. At one point, I finally basically said, "Fuck off, you're done," and they couldn't believe it. And then the show started running stateside and has been very successful. You know, I don't ask a lot. I'm not asking anybody to sit here and lick my asshole and provide me with a lifetime supply of ice cream. But what I am asking for is a basic level of respect for what I do. I don't tolerate being belittled. I don't, and there's a big difference between that and constructive criticism. Big difference. And people don't seem to know the difference, or conveniently want to not know the difference. You know, when I have a show running in the United States, I can have an intelligent discussion with the GM or the programming individuals or anybody that I'm working with. We can have an intelligent conversation, which we used to be able to have in this country, but apparently we can't anymore, because then you're a racist, or you're a pedophile, or you're an insert completely random pejorative here. You know, it that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's like just a shut down debate. You know, when I'm doing something in the United States, I can have a conversation. I can have a frank conversation with the general managers of some of the stations that the show runs on. I can say, hey, what do you think? Well, I think da. And I can say, well, I don't really agree with that. And they're like, okay, well, what would you do? You can actually have an intelligent conversation and exchange ideas. You know, and here it's an affront, and it didn't always used to be like that. And the one thing that I really want to, and now this reputation of Canadians being nice and whatever, I would say that Canadians are generally not nice. They're passive aggressive. And I don't know where this misplaced arrogance is coming from, but I'm tired of it. And it's getting so bad now that it's starting to get noticed around the world. ESPN did a whole big thing on the bobsled pilot from Team Canada, and she was completely screwed over and moved over to Team USA. And this is this kind of crap where they could just get rid of that coach. All they had to do was get rid of the coach, or basically issue a statement saying, you know, this is under review. No, they had to throw all the resources that they had to screw this athlete, who, by the way, is a multiple medalist in the Olympics, and then they tell her to get lost, basically. That's a lot of time, money, legal resources for a fucking power trip. How about you deal with your shit? How about that? That, to me, that would be logical. But we don't need logic. The other thing is the athletes in Canada don't get anywhere near enough resources. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you know, we're proud of our athletes and whatever. Yeah, but nobody ever wants to pay for it. If you're an athlete in, you know, for Team USA, for example, you have resources that you can deal with. You know, you have resources that are available. There are sponsorships that are available that more than cover the amount of training that you need to get to that level. Here we don't. Particularly in sports that are, you know, not hockey, not, you know what I mean? And the other thing that doesn't help either is when your teammates don't back you up when there's abuses, because they're more concerned about what's on their back. That's not cool either. If you're seeing abuse and then you throw your teammate under the bus, who's the only one who has the fucking balls to turn around and say, this is not okay, I have sufficient evidence for an investigation and I'm going to deal with it, you're no worse, or you're no better. And this is the kind of thing that I have a problem with. I have a real problem with this. And, you know, and then, of course, oh, well, I don't want to get involved, right? People in Canada, they have all the time and the the money and the resources in the world to basically deal with a power trip. They'll sue somebody that doesn't need to be sued. They'll do anything to try to avoid addressing the main issue. And all they had to do is say, you know what, we're sorry. This is not the way that we operate around here. We're going to look into it. You just sit tight and then do it. Have the arrogance to do it publicly. And then you issue and then ESPN comes snooping, and then you're going to blow off ESPN. Do you have any idea how completely asinine that is? The American media machine is way bigger than the Canadian media machine. Way bigger. But I got to tell you, all I've ever experienced is the utmost professionalism. I have been very well treated by the American networks, and I have not been treated well here. I don't feel respected in Canada. I don't feel appreciated in Canada. I don't feel that with some exceptions, for the most part, I feel like I've essentially been pushed out of my own country. I don't feel that my achievements in television and my achievements in sports and my overall achievements have been valued. I feel like people have gone out of their way to make things difficult. And then they have the nerve to act like I'm some kind of a traitor when there's a country that does appreciate the quality of work that I'm doing. Well, of course I'm going to go there. I'm not going to sit there and deal with a bunch of abuse. And nobody here seems to understand that. And it was very interesting seeing this. And this is just something that really bothers me. You can't keep beating the shit out of somebody because you don't like them, and then have the nerve to get offended when they get up and say, you know what, fuck this, I'm out of here. I'm going to go where I am appreciated. You don't have the right to do that. You cannot bend. And here's the other thing, too. This country isn't big enough to have that kind of attitude. I mean, oh, well, America's this and that, other thing. Well, you know what? I haven't experienced that. At least I can have an honest conversation in the United States. Not here. Oh, well, then maybe you should move there then. Well, yeah, that's what I'm doing. But in the meantime, this is just going to keep happening to more and more and more and more and more people, right? And for the longest time, I mean, I was pretty depressed for a long time. It's like, holy shit, like I have this show on the air, and and I've got a reach of about 26 million people that are able to watch it, but you're doing it out of a country where everybody's like, well, do you think that makes you so special? Do you think that, you know what I mean? And people don't think, and then when I go to the States, it's like, hey, what you're doing is great, and you know what, we just want to say that we appreciate what you do, and whatever. You don't get that here. You don't get that here. And when I tell my American friends and colleagues about this, I mean, they don't believe it. Like, not, we don't believe you and we think you're lying. It's hard for them to wrap that level of hostility and allergy to excellence that seems to have become prevalent in the last 10 years. I mean, Canada has always been a bit, not as get up and go about it. But in Canada, make no mistake, if you want to strive for a life of excellence, people will go out of their way to destroy you here. Any of you that are thinking of coming to Canada, don't. If you want to be average and you just don't want to rock the boat and you don't really want to do anything special or different, and you're perfectly okay with going in and punching a time clock, then Canada's fine. You won't have any issues. But God help you if you come up with an idea for something that's ambitious. They hate ambition here. They hate it. They say they'll talk a good game about, oh, we value, but holy shit, if you actually come up with something better than the status quo here, watch the fuck out, man. Watch out. People hang up on you. They will make shit up about you. They will outwardly get in your face and be extremely hostile. If you do anything out of the norm, anything that indicates that you have any ambition, that you have any self-pride, if you have any degree of desire for excellence at all, it is the most offensive thing in Canada that to them. They will bend heaven and earth to see to it that you learn your place. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm a big believer in a meritocracy. If you are going to impart a lesson to me or anybody, then you better have a much longer fucking CV than I do or any of my staff does. But if you don't, and you want me to play by your rules, then you should be fucking listening to me. If you don't have more achievement, more talent, more ability, more whatever, then you should be listening to me, not the other way around. If that is the sort of classist attitude that you're going to take, then in my opinion, and I think it's correct, I think it's more than correct, like, who the fuck made you king shit? Maybe if you have that much of a problem with people wanting to do a good job and do good work, then maybe instead of spending all this effort to try to get in my face and in the face of Olympic athletes that are just trying to do a good job, maybe you should spend those resources and get better at it yourself, right? Instead of being so goddamn lazy, go out and get better yourself. You think it's easy to go out on the mat and become really good at jiu-jitsu? You think it's easy to go out and produce a TV show? You think it's easy to have people get in your face all the time? Do you think it's easy to go out and sell advertising? Do you think it's easy to become a doctor? Do you think it's easy to become a surgeon? Do you think it's easy to become the best in your field at anything? No, it's not. And I don't understand this. And the level of pushback is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I can think of a few people that are in the middle of this, and they'll push back for years. They'll use legal threats, they'll use evasion, they'll use gaslighting. And then you end up turning around looking like a conspiracy theorist when you tell people what people do here in Canada for anybody that has a little bit of ambition. And maybe they want a little bit of a better life for themselves. And maybe they're willing to put the work in. Because it's so disproportionately sick what is done in this country to anybody that wants to excel. That anybody that hasn't seen it, they have a hard time wrapping their head around it. This doesn't happen in the United States. Make no mistake. This does not happen there. Not to that degree. There are going to be places everywhere. U.S., England, Ireland, Zimbabwe, doesn't matter. There's always going to be places and towns and whatever that are unsupportive. But societally as a whole, in Canada, it's not accepted to excel. People will band together and make sure that they do everything in their power to keep you in your place. If they've decided that you are to be at a particular social class, and you have the nerve to try to work your way and do something better than what they've determined what your class is, all hell will break loose. And I'm sorry, but I don't have time for that shit, and I'm not going to put up with it. And you know what? You shouldn't put up with that either. In the United States, it's okay to be the best. It's okay to strive to be the best. Does it happen overnight? No. But there are supports. The United States is honest about where they want to be. No country's perfect. Countries do good things, and then they do things that are not that great. And the U.S. is no exception. In the United States, they do some good things, and then they do some not good things. That's just part of humanity. That's life. But at least in the United States, the intent is honest. They want to be the best. They want the best people. They want the best talent. They want the best everything. They want to be the best, and they strive to be the best. They be the best in business, the best in sports, the best in whatever. Yes, there are business interests and whatever in government, and that's the same everywhere. That's That's not unique to any particular country. That power dynamic is going to exist in any country in the world. But at least in the United States, they are honest about, we want people here that are the best. We want people here that will bring value to the country. We want people here that are ambitious and will bring economic prosperity and all that stuff. And they walk the walk as well as talking the talk. Here, they'll say all that bullshit. They will. They will say that all the time. But if you actually, and they'll go, oh, well, you can do whatever you want to. But once you actually start achieving it, that's when the knives come out. What bothers me about Canada is they're not honest about it. They're not honest about it at all. They're absolutely not honest in the least about it, right? They'll say all that stuff until it's apparent that it's actually happening, and then you'll see. But it's like, if you don't want good people here, then just say it. Why are you wasting legal resources? Why are you trying to like smear people? Why are you trying to like, if you really want to be a number 2 country, then say you're a number 2 country. Say that's what you want. If you don't want the best people here, you know, and you end up having a brain drain, you don't have the right to cry about it if you're not going to do anything about it. It's that simple. I mean, Go Nitro is done with a small team, and it's running across the United States, and we get bigger, we get big athletes, and the show's getting kind of bigger all the time, and we have fun doing it. I mean, we don't stand on ceremony with it, but holy hell, it sure wouldn't have happened that way here. Not here. I mean, other than in particular cases. I mean, it's just it's unbelievable, and everything's done here. I mean, yeah, we travel to shoot the show, but I mean, you know, we cut it here and we produce it here and we syndicate it here and we do all the closed captioning and everything, and you know, we deliver the show from script to screen. The whole thing is done here, and the music's done here. In fact, the music for Go Nitro, when you hear it on the TV or when you watch it on TV, the music is done right here in this room. This room that I'm live casting out of right now, going on like a gas bed deck. All of Go Nitro is done in this room. In fact, you know, like if I turn the camera here, you can see like the whole show. Like this is where I have the camera now. If I spin this camera around, I guess I can't go around. I'm running out of cables here. But this computer, you know, I have these computers here, and I have a bunch of my art equipment and my tablet. I mean, it's all done in here. I mean, yeah, I'll do some of it at the studio sometimes, but I mean, the whole show's done here in this room. Most of it, anyway. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. But you would never know it. I mean, but the thing is we do a good job on it. We work really hard on the show. A lot of it, I mean, yeah, some of it's, like I say, done out of an office and a studio and that. But by and large, the show is being produced out of this room. And this room's in my house. This room is in my house. I'm making the show in my house. And then when I have some of my staff, I'll bring them in my house, and, you know, we'll order a pizza and have some beer and have some fun and play Xbox or whatever, or go out and train, and then we'll work on the show. You know what I mean? It's not like it's 1988 anymore, where you need like $1 million studio. I mean, yes, I do have the resources for a full studio, and there are times where I need to do that, but that's not now. And again, the music's done here, you know, and I've got these cool little devices. Oh, okay. I guess I missed some. Yeah, here we go. My good friend Tanya Sherko. Hey, Tanya. We love ya. So Tanya says, the ESPN network is bigger than all the other channel sports put together. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So again, it speaks to my point. What the fuck is like a bunch of these little pissant, pencil-pushing, dickhead little dweebs going, oh, well, we're not going to release a statement. It's fucking ESPN. And here's the other thing, too. While I'm shitting on Canadian broadcasting up to and including, most deservedly, TSN. TSN, 30% of it is owned by ESPN because CRTC rules don't allow non-Canadian ownership to exceed a certain percentage. So Bell Media owns the majority of it. But ESPN wanted to buy it. They still want it, probably. So they own a good chunk of TSN. But if they're not impressed with a bunch of the stuff that's going on, at the end of the day, because they have a smaller amount, they can't really force TSN to do anything completely. But they can do other things. Look at how much content on TSN is coming from ESPN. They have content arrangement. You don't fuck with ESPN. You don't fuck with ESPN. Like, oh, well, we're TSN. You don't fuck with the ESPN. You don't fuck with Disney. I was an animator, for God's sakes. Rule number 1, you don't mess with the mouse. You don't. I haven't been an animator in like 10 years. And now, where is Go Nitro running largely? Well, it's running on stations that are Fox and ABC, a lot of them. Who owns ABC? Disney. Who owns Fox? Disney. Boy, it's a good thing I had good relationships when I was an animator. You don't fuck with Disney. Don't fuck with them. It's not a good idea. And regardless of whether Disney owns ESPN or not, ESPN is an American institution. And they have unbelievable resources everywhere. It's asinine and unbelievably arrogant to think that you can push and dick around. You will pay a price. The other thing I would also like to point out is when I deal with the American networks, they're way bigger than the networks here. I mean, here it's like a fucking 7-Eleven. No disrespect to 7-Eleven. I love Slurpees. They're not very healthy, but I love them. But 7-Eleven aside, why is it that a country and networks in that country of that size, like the United States, can treat me and what I do with respect, and myself and my team with respect, and be enthusiastic and give me the resources I need to do what I enjoy doing and get to do sports which I enjoy doing and get to highlight deserving athletes which I enjoy doing. Yet a country that's literally a tenth of the size is acting like some kind of a cartoonish supervillain. Why is it that some fucking country that's a tenth of the size, like Canada, is acting as unbelievably pathetic and terrible as they are, whereas a country that does have the cachet and does have the resources and does have the muscle to do these supervillain thing, how come I'm able to get on with them? Why is it they respect what I do? Why is it that the big guys, the so-called big evil whatever, why is it that I have no problems? Why don't I have any issues with ESPN? Why don't I have any issues with ABC, CBS, NBC? I'll tell you why. Because they're secure in themselves and they know how good they are. They legitimately want the best people. Yes, in every company there's going to be people that are good, and then there's going to be people that are not so good, right? It's just the law of averages. But by and large, if you are American and you are in the United States and you are able to offer something of value, if you're able to demonstrate that you can provide that value, you are provided with that respect. I feel very respected by my American colleagues. I enjoy very much working with all the networks that I work with, and I enjoy talking to the GMs, and I enjoy talking to the stations, all the ABC, CBS, CW, Fox, NBC. I enjoy working with them. I enjoy talking with them, and a lot of us are friends, and we'll go out when I'm there, and we'll have pizza, and we'll have lunch, and we'll go to a game. You know what I mean? Like we enjoy what we do. Whereas in a country, my own country, where they're getting wet over 1.2 million viewers. Like, that's nothing. Like, it's fucking nothing. Our broadcast size is a fucking joke. Like, if you go to the United States and you try to pitch an advertiser and they go, okay, well, what's your Nielsen, or like, what are your numbers? Like, what is your reach? What is your overall reach? And you say, yeah, we have a total reach of 1.2 million. They'll laugh at you. They'll fucking laugh. It's a joke. There's 400 million people in the United States of America, and the U.S. TV household system is basically where the Nielsen ratings come from. I have no problems dealing with Nielsen. Nielsen's great, but I'm not getting any attitude. And right now, I mean, my show that is being produced in this fucking room, right, has a reach of 26 million viewers. I'm producing the show in Canada for my American friends, and we have 26 million viewers. And I'm going to cop an attitude from a network that on their best day on Super Bowl Sunday can barely cop 1.2 million, 1.6 million? I mean, come on now. Like, if that isn't a Napoleonic complex, and I don't know what fucking is. You know what I mean? Like, I'll call it out. Oh, well, like, it's gotten to the point where you go through years of this, because I've worked in broadcasting for a long time, and you see a lot of this shit, and you're like, well, I better not say anything, and I better not say anything. I might, not get an opportunity. But there's a point where you've done enough, and you've got enough money in the bank or whatever, and it says, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. I'm not turning around and insulting anybody. I'm not biting the hand that feeds. The Canadian broadcast industry, with some exceptions, is a fucking joke. It is a complete joke of unprofessionalism, and it's really sad, because it didn't used to be like that. It didn't used to be like that. I really noticed this start to happen. I really started to notice this happening. It's around 2011, 2010, 2011, I started to see this a bit. And then it started to get really bad around 2013, 2014. Now, again, here's what I'm not bitching on. I'm not bitching on the Canadian talent pool. I'm not saying that Canada is a place of shitty talent. I'm not. It's quite the opposite. There's an unbelievable amount of talent. What I'm saying is we don't value it here, and we keep having people run the show literally that are a bunch of fucking idiots, and they're afraid of anybody that's any good. So what they do is they go out of their way to make sure that anybody that's any good here is made to feel like that's it, so that they don't go to the U.S., and they don't think to go to the U.S., and they don't think to go to the U.K., and they don't think to go anywhere else where they might be fucking valued, and realize that this shit is not normal. It's not normal. The way that broadcasting in this country goes is not normal. I had a network. I was talking to a network here, and they wanted to run Go Nitro. Fairly well-established network. And I get called by some fucking asshole in sales. He's like, oh, well, we want to do a time buy. Why the fuck would I want to do a time buy? I've got like 26 million people in the United States that are watching my show. And you think he actually thought that I was going to make a case to him. Oh, well, if you've got so many people, then why did you? See, this is the kind of shit, this is why people leave. And they don't get it here. Oh, well, we don't have the, then maybe you shouldn't run a fucking TV station. How about that? How dare you call me, and bullshit and lie to me and say, oh, like I don't need you. I have 20, oh, well, you're arrogant. No, you're fucking arrogant for thinking that you should get shit for free. And then I'm the only one that has the balls to turn around and say that I'm not going to put up with this shit. That's the problem. We've got so many people in this country that'll just roll over and put up with this misbehavior, so that it's people like me and a few other people that do have the balls to stand up and say, you're being an asshole. Then we're the ones that have to deal with the whole weight of it, because nobody else has the fucking balls to turn around and say, this is not okay. Right? If you put, it's the whole thing with the nails. Remember when you were a kid, when they did the thing in science class with the bed of nails? or you'd basically, the teacher would lie, or somebody would lie on like a bed of nails, like on a, a thing of wood, and then put another wood thing on top of it, and then hit, and then the class would go, versus on one nail. It's basically just basic engineering, dispersal of weight. That's what this is. And the problem is that we don't I don't know how we became a nation of bullies and normalizing this kind of fucked up behavior and not calling it out on it. World War II, Canadian troops were known as the stormtroopers. We stood up for what was right and did it. And we did our bit, and we were respected by the British. We were respected by the Americans. We were respected. We were even respected by um, the Third Reich Army. They were afraid of us. They respected us because we were good at what we did, and we would do anything to get the job done. There's a difference between respecting somebody and endorsing them. Obviously, what was going on in World War II in Germany was not was pure evil, but you can still respect an enemy for their skills, right? It's basically a more extreme variant of not underestimating your opponent. But now, people seem to think that they just can wave their magic wand and that everybody will bend. And if they don't, then you are to be destroyed. And this is something I have a problem with. What other comments do I have here? I don't know. Oh, wow. There's a lot of, I was really slow on the draw today. Yeah, here we go. Astral Ray Media says, you have to have a home office in an area that experiences minus 40 Fahrenheit degrees temperatures for weeks on end, because who would want to leave their house? Well, funnily enough, I happen to have an office in an area where it's routinely minus 40 Fahrenheit on end, and that is one of the reasons when we do the winter episodes of the show, I am doing the episodes at home because I don't want to leave the fucking house. I love winter and everything, but yeah, minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, fuck that. Oh, what else do we have? Oh, I thought I turned that comment on. I did turn it on, and I guess I'm going to turn it off. There we go. Tanya, again. Tanya. Yeah, look at how the funniest people from Canada are the biggest TV stars in the U.S. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to put anybody on the spot here. Well, actually, you know what? I will. Like guys like Jim Carrey and guys like John Candy and so on and so forth. I mean, these are guys that were really, really talented, but they were having a hard time here. They do the odd thing for CBC and whatever, but then they come to the U.S. and they do really well and whatever, and then they come back to Canada. Oh, well, we're a proud Canadian, whatever. I'm not going to criticize them too much for not calling out the behavior here because it wasn't, the level of hostility towards excellence was not, I would say it was not quite as prevalent in the 70s and 80s. We just didn't have the resources to really have more than one or two broadcasters at the time. So I'll give that a little bit of a pass while they come back. I'm a proud Canadian, right? Because the problems didn't really start to get out of control up until maybe about 10 years ago. I would say maybe about 10 years ago or something to that effect. But what I will criticize, Simu Liu, Shang-Chi in the new Marvel franchise. I mean, although you know what, I'll give him credit too. He did call out a bunch of the stuff that he didn't care for that he saw when he was doing Kim's Convenience. So I will give him credit for that. But this whole, I'm a proud Canadian and I got it by asking nicely and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know what? Fuck off. Now that you've got a platform, you should be calling the behavior out. I mean, people were making it difficult for you here too. You know, people were making it difficult for you here too. I think you have, if not an obligation, a bit of a moral responsibility, because yeah, maybe you left, and and maybe people like me and uh, in a different capacity were able to leave Canada and find success elsewhere. But if there aren't large entities that are people now listen to because they're famous, calling out the behavior that they experienced when they were here in Canada, it's bullies don't stop until you present them with a situation that there is a consequence, and that they're called out on it, and that they're aware that it can be stopped, or that there's not a payoff to do it. Uh, and the problem is that there's so goddamn many of these celebrities that are just so happy to get out of Canada and get some respect, and they've got some money in the bank, and they're living in LA or New York or wherever. You know, there's like they're just so happy that the struggle is over, that it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll just act like the happy Canadian. But the problem is what that does is it furthers the issue for another generation, and it's getting a lot worse. I mean, I am technically what is with this fucking microphone? Anyway, screw it. Leave it here and screw it. And then I say screw it, and then I keep dicking with the microphone the whole time, like OCD. All right, I'll just leave it there for now, and then I move it again. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with this stuff, and I think this is important to I think this is important to bring up here, which is, I think I've got this off my ear or something. Hang wrong. Okay, that's better. I think I lost my train of thought. I spent so much time yelling at the camera here. I think that what we're looking at here is, it's just on bullies. You gotta kind of sometimes shove them against the wall, and really make them feel what they're doing. And I think that unless and until that happens, this behavior is just going to get worse. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I am technically a millennial. Okay, I am a millennial, and I am openly going to turn around and say that I find the majority of my generation to be a pain in the ass. I find that our generation is a spoilt, woke, entitled pain in the ass that is, that just is generally a real problem. And I can't stand, for the most part, dealing with people in my own age group. The only people that I generally seem to get along with are people that manage to have to kind of work for shit like I did, or martial artists. Because here's a news flash about, if you're a martial artist, right? And you're learning jiu-jitsu, or Krav, or Muay Thai, or Jiu-Jitsu, or whatever. Martial arts don't care if you're a doctor, if you're the Queen of England, if you're the Prime Minister, if you're the President of the United States, if you are, an Arabian prince. It doesn't matter. If you go on the mat in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you can't grapple, you are going to get your ass kicked. The beautiful thing about martial arts is that it is completely egalitarian. It is entirely based on the skill and your ability to what you're able to do on the mat, which is directly proportional to the amount that you train, and directly proportional to your attitude and skill set where you are. If you get mad, if you make a mistake, if you miss a spot, or you don't get the position so that you can get a submission, or you can't get the sweep or whatever, guess what? if it's some 15-year-old kid that's living in the projects and you're some like 45-year-old doctor making $500,000 or $1 million a year, guess what? He won and you lost, right? So you either learn to deal with this shit and get better, or you can't deal with the ego and you quit. And I'll be honest, and I said this to my sensei. I mean, when I right when I started, I had a couple of days where I lost my fucking temper. I mean, jiu-jitsu is hard. It's fucking hard. It's really hard. And you're getting bent in all these different directions and there's all these moves and you're trying, and unfortunately I'm training at a really awesome club, and my sensei is awesome, and everybody that I train with is awesome at all belt levels. So you can ask, and there's all like you get a ton of instruction. It's fantastic. But the thing about this is that you know I like I said I joked, I was joking, and I was talking to my sensei. I'm like, holy fuck, man! I said, there are days where I almost quit, or I wanted to put it to, and I'm stubborn. I'm not a quitter. And there were days where I was like, and I said, there were days where I basically wanted to throw a plate against the wall, and he laughed and he said, yeah, me too. Right? This is normal. So you either keep going or you quit. Right? But if you can kind of suck it up and go, you know what, this is supposed to be fun, and I'm not going to get anywhere if I'm angry, and if I leave, I'm not going to learn this shit. That's one of the things that's really you got to remember about, particularly about jiu-jitsu, is if you leave, you're never going to get better at all. And if you're going and you're getting your ass kicked all the time, even at a really awesome gym, it just goes to show you how effective that martial art is. And in jiu-jitsu, it does teach you to deal with opponents of a much larger size. I mean, I've been thrown by women that are half my size, and I've seen purple belts the same deal, like that are just fucking huge. Because it's all about technique. Then when you get, and you can learn all this stuff. If you keep going, you'll be able to do it too. And my sensei said this, and it's like, okay, well, but it's true. If you keep going and you get a little bit more, and you get a little bit more, and you get a little bit more, you will get there. You will be able to do the stuff that basically had your ass handed to you. You can do that. And the cool thing about jiu-jitsu, if you're rolling with a cool bunch of people, you can ask them how they kicked your ass, and they'll say, okay, well, let's take some minutes, and here's what did I, and you can go, okay, what did I do? Okay, all right, well, Corey, the first thing is you should have put your hands here. You were an inch or two up, so that gave me an opening that I could go into. So if I'm rolling with, with Katie, or, or if I'm rolling with, Jordan or whoever in my club doesn't, I'm going to, they'll help me. You know what I mean? And then you get a little better, and then you get a little better, and then everybody gets better. So, and that's the way life should be, and these are, and this is why I don't have patience for this shit. You just have to get up and show up and do it. But when you're dealing with all this other kind of bullshit, it's unnecessary. I always like to say, life's not fair, but there's degrees of life's not fair. So as an example, life's not fair, things aren't equal, okay? Some people start out with an advantage. Maybe their parents have more money than you. Maybe they have a trust fund. There could be any number of things that they have a head start. And it might be harder for you to catch up. Maybe you can't go to university right away or finish your degree by virtue of the fact that you your family doesn't have a ton of money, and you don't have that kind of money, and so you just can't go right now. You can figure stuff. So you are going to be in a handicap. That's not fair, but that's life. But there are degrees of life's not fair that are unacceptable. So if you're injured, say, and then somebody takes advantage of your injury and then uses it to impersonate you and steal all your belongings and go, well, hey, you know what? If you weren't sick and you were at home, you should have known that. That's a really extreme example, but that's the kind of thing that I would say that I don't really have a whole lot of patience for, and there's levels of that in between. So this idea that you can just kind of bully somebody and destroy somebody because they don't agree with you is just a pile of bullshit. And I don't like how it's normalized. And the problem is because there's so few of us that actually have the balls to go up and do something about it, then you're going solo, and then of course the bullies can turn around and go, oh well, if you were if you were right, well, then there would be more than one of you. Well, yeah, well, if you've scared everybody else and you only have one person that's willing to basically fight back, it's this kind of circuitous, convenient, ad hominem logic that I don't have a lot of patience for. Let's see what other comments we have going on here. More stuff from Tanya, one of my longtime friends from Detroit. Farmington Hills. It's Filet of Detroit. Sorry, Tanya. Canada is so cliquey. Holy fuck yes. Holy fuck yes. That's a charitable way of putting it. Canada's cliquey. Yeah, Canada's a fucking clique, all right. Oh, man. I just... Ugh. I used to be proud to be from here, but now, big old American flag. Martial arts is a mind, body, and attitude equalizer. Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, and it does so harshly sometimes, like in a tough love kind of way. And you the lessons they're not sugar coated, and sometimes they involve bruises and lacerations and whatever if you don't want to take that lesson. But it's good for you. And I'll be honest, I don't know if 10 years ago I would have been able mentally to deal with the kind of stuff that I'm dealing with in martial arts now. I don't know if at that time in my life I would have had the mental maturity to do that sort of thing. Okay. I mean, we joke around a lot. We I would say that at my jiu-jitsu dojo, we take the art seriously, like we take jiu-jitsu seriously, but not ourselves. And that makes it a lot easier. And it is a higher level club. I mean, my sensei, he trained under Jason Gagnon, and he he was awarded his black belt from Cobrinha. So if you know anything about jiu-jitsu, I guarantee you that you know who Cobrinha is. So it's a different vibe, but we're taught a high level of jiu-jitsu. But we're given everything we need, and we joke around and we have fun. But when we're on the mat, we're spending that time training on the mat, and it's a grappling martial art. It isn't a striking martial art. I will do some competitions at some point, but but for jiu-jitsu, it's to plug holes. You know what I mean? It's to plug hole. Competitions are useful to figure out where you are weak and what you need to work on. And it's not uncommon to have your sensei or you tend to have a good cheering section, right? And then you go and you cheer for your training buddies too. But again, it is one of those situations where you get out of it what you put into it, and it takes time. So that's something that's really really important. Okay. Interesting. I'm guessing this is a spam content, but I find this amusing, so I will address it. So, Kizingibjo says, Vam today. Well, Kizingibjo, Vam today to you too. So, I don't know what Vam today means, but today is very Vummy. Yeah, I what I should have done to, yeah, I didn't open the comment thing on my little streaming device, and I'm just sort of going through them. Well, what do we have here? Tanya says, thank you for being professional. Well, it's not easy because people are fucking nuts. Yeah. I'm probably going to have to wrap this up pretty soon. I was going to play some music, but I've got 14% on the streaming device, and the last thing I want is for this to conk out in the middle of it. And I did actually want to bring into some of this. Let's see. Do we have new comments? Those bullies are cowards. Yeah, they are. The problem is there's so goddamn many of them. So before I sign off here, I thought I would address a little bit. I'm going to do this a little bit more as time goes on. But what I did want to mention is that I get asked a lot about how the music is done. Now, I have a lot of VSTs and things, and then I have a drum over there that I do stuff on the drums, and I'll probably do a live thingy with that. But generally, this is my master keyboard here. So this keyboard, I don't usually use the onboard sounds on the keyboard. I actually write all the music for Go Nitro. So all the pop stuff, like every note that you hear in the show is actually written by me. So I'm composing the show as well as cutting it and producing it. And, well, Emily cuts a lot of it. Like Emily cuts it too, and then in my case, and then I'll do the music, and then I'll do the finished cut. So Emily will cut segments. It used to be that I would edit the whole show myself, and then it's kind of like a production line. So Emily will cut the individual segments after we've shot them, and then I will assemble them into the final show and do the graphics and the animation and the sound and all that, and then I'll write the music. But this keyboard here, this Korg controller down here is actually what I use as my master keyboard. But I don't typically use the onboard sound for the keyboard. I will typically have it connected to the computer via MIDI, and then just use like Cubase or whatever to arrange it. But if I'm just trying to sort of work something out, then what I'll do is I will just use I'll just have like a piano patch or whatever on it. So, although in this case for the piano, and then because you don't actually have to really. Sometimes it's easier to just have a piano. But right now I've got the reverb on. So I am actually going to turn that reverb off because it's on my, here we go, effect. So I'm actually going to turn the reverb off. Odd that it's not actually letting me go over. Oh, here we go. F4. So if I'm trying to kind of work out a melody, I'll just do it with like the El Cheapo piano patch I have here. Like I don't have like a super crazy setup here, because I don't need it. Don't need it. And it's all these VSTs and things are so unbelievably good now. You can spend a lot of time noodling, and you get so wrapped up in the sound that you kind of forget to actually come up with a melody because you get so lost in all of the various sounds that you can have. Whereas having a piano sound kind of forces you to concentrate on the melody itself. And so suck here, but but you've got one sound to work on. I feel like this should be a little more stereo than this, but so you know what I mean? Like one sound I can work on the melody okay. And it's nice because I have everything already kind of set up here. And then if I want to have some reverb, then I have it. Turn it back on now. Probably should move over. I need to get a proper stand in here. But the reverb is a little nicer for stuff like the synthesizer stuff like my Prophet 5 here. I don't know what else we got here. I got 10% left on this battery. I think we can. What else? That's kind of nice. All right, well, this thing's bitching at me that there's not enough battery power in it because I spent so much time trying to get it set up. Wanted to do an update, so it took a little longer to get online than I'd wanted. But on the plus side, I'm back, and I am going to do more of these now that life is a little bit more under control, shall we say. So, because I have the wonder of these incredibly magical graphics here, if you haven't already, I will ask you please to subscribe for this and some of the cool content that I'm going to be adding to this, up to and including my rants, such as I'm doing right now. So anyway, have a good one, and I will see you soon. I'll probably wind up doing one of these tomorrow. I do want to get back into it. Just had some life going on, as it were. But yeah. So have a good one, kids, and I will see you extremely